All right, so it really all begins with Google Drive, and some of you already are probably somewhat familiar with it. So hopefully it's not going to be too basic, but I think you're going to have at least a few takeaways of things that you didn't know about. My thing's not working here. Okay, here we go. So we're going to get like an overview of Google Drive, accessing different ways to access Google Drive. We're going to talk a little bit about the environment, how to add files to multiple folders, searching. It has a great search capability, how to create new files. We're going to talk about sharing and collaboration, some new Google Drive features, and I'm going to say new. Priority and workspace has probably been between the past year or so. Different ways to organize your Google Drive. We're going to talk about Google File Stream, and then I'm just going to give you this link to this G Suite Learning Center. So if anything G Suite for education related, there's tons of resources in there for you to kind of look at on your own. Okay, so Google Drive is the hub of G Suite. So it's just kind of where you could start from Google Drive and get anywhere you want to be from there. It syncs amongst all your devices. So what's the beauty of Google is you could be on your iPad, you could be on your phone, you could be on a shared device, you could be on your work computer, your home computer. All you need to do is log in with your Google account. Everything syncs, all right? So you want to go in Chrome whenever you're not on an app, but everything will sync to your work Google account. And you could have access to everything. It's very safe up in Google. I think it's safer in Google than it is sitting in hard drive spaces amongst districts. Actually, Rockville Center had a breach and they lost many files there, and they went all Google and put everything in Google to keep it safer. Okay, so I'll show you how to upload existing files and folders into Google, converting files to the Google Doc format. So you could take a PDF and that's on your computer, open it in Google Docs, and it can edit it. So you'll have the ability for like an OCR type program. You could create new documents. We'll talk about collaboration. Google really makes it easy to collaborate with your students and other staff members very easily, and you could customize your sharing features. G Suite for Education has unlimited storage. So you could put in PDFs, images, videos, anything Google file related, amongst many other things. It's unlimited storage. You never have to worry about filling up your storage. Okay, you don't have that on your personal, but you do on your unlimited. There is an advanced file search within Google Drive, so we'll look at different ways that we can search within Google Drive. File Stream is very useful if you are on a work computer, which is your computer, or a home computer. It almost acts as a hard drive on the device you're on and gives you that ability to download right to Google. All right, so we'll talk about that a little later. And then Share Drive. It used to be called Team Drives. This is only in G Suite for Education, and it's called a Share Drive. And that would be good if you had, Southampton had maybe personnel files and that they wanted everyone to be able to see and access. They would put it in a shared drive. And then we'll talk about priority and workspaces. Okay, so there's 3 different ways that you can access Google Drive. In the URL, you could type in drive.google.com. Again, if you're not logged in to your account, it's gonna prompt you to do that. If you're already logged in, it's gonna go right there. You could also go to the waffle or the Google menu, which looks like the waffle up here, which gives you access to all your different G Suite apps. Or if you're on certain desktops or mobile device, you would have the app on your iPad or your device. All right, so I'm gonna pop out now because I'm gonna bring you into my account. which is my Hauppauge account. So this is what it looks like, a little differently than the other G Suite, not G Suite, your personal Google account. There's just a couple of slight variations. So I wanted to show you what it would look like in G Suite for Education. So this new button where you could do a lot of things. So we're going to start here. And if I click on new, I could create a folder. I can upload a file. I can upload a folder. So if you were on a desktop and you have stuff on your drive on your computer and you want to start bringing everything into Drive, you would click on maybe a file upload. You would come up, this probably looks familiar to you. I'm on a Mac, but even on a desktop. And I would go on and I would find any files or documents. I would click on it. I don't want to do it now, and I would hit upload, and it's going to literally upload the entire folder right there. So you can upload a file individually or a folder. You could also access all of these different apps. Mine might look a little different than yours, depending on what you add-ons and stuff that you have on there. So if I wanted to create a Google Doc, I would click on here. If I go over to the arrow, I could do it from a blank template, from a blank document, or choose from templates. And when I do these other webinars later, we'll kind of get into that a little bit more. So that's kind of what the plus sign is. Now, priority is something that's new. I'm going to talk about that in a little while. I'm just going to start with the basics. So this is my drive. So my drive is your drive. If you notice on the top, there's quick access. I like quick access because what it does, it uses artificial intelligence to kind of see what are the files that you open the most, or maybe you had a file that's shared with you by somebody that shares with you often. It kind of knows that, and it'll put it up on top for easy access. Let's see. So in here, all my files. I have color coding, I have folders inside of folders. You guys are probably familiar with that already. So you have your own way of organizing. So all on the top are always folders. And as I go down, I'm gonna probably have, I try to keep everything in folders. I actually did a pretty good job, but I've been a little disorganized since we've been remotely. So these are all, like, if you look, you could see all the icons. So folders look like folders. If you see a person inside, that means it's a shared folder. So if you had a folder and you shared it with whomever, you could share it with everyone in your organization or just a couple people, anything that goes into that folder is automatically shared with whoever it's shared with. So this is a Word document, PDFs, this is a Google slide, Google Docs. So you got to kind of get to know what all the different icons are. So these are just out of a folder and sitting. So I need to take some time to kind of organize it a little better because I like to have everything in folders. So that's kind of everything that is in my drive. Share drive is what I taught you. It used to be team drives, now it's called share drives. And this is where you can just have a shared drive with a couple of people that you just want to have everything in one place that you can all access. You could also have a shared folder. So the same and different. What I don't like as much about a shared drive is you kind of lose access to it. It's harder to take it out of here. Ownership from somebody. It's kind of owned by everybody. Shared with me is any file or anything that has been shared with you will go there. It will never be neat. It will never be organized, but there are other ways. So you just got to say, okay, this isn't going to be neat and organized because you're always going to have people sharing things with you. But you have ways when you're searching to find these files. And if it's a shared file that you don't really want to own, but you want to be able to put neatly into your drive, I'm going to show you how to do that. Recent is exactly what it is. Recent. It actually goes back from today, yesterday. I could kind of scroll back into any file that I've opened or modified. Is there any questions? Everyone's good so far? I'm just jumping ahead. Kelly, if you wouldn't mind just letting me know if there's a question in there. So starred is any files that are starred. So you could store a folder or a file, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. Basically, it just kind of puts it all in one. It's like flagging something in like a Gmail account or something, flag it for access. I used to use it more, but now there's so many ways to organize yourself. I really don't use it as much, and I'll show you some things on how to do that in a minute. So trash is obviously everything that's in the trash. You really don't have to be nervous when you're working in the Google environment, because even if it goes in the trash, I think on a personal level, it stays for 90 days, but I could go back in my trash and I could go back a very long time. So you never can delete things in Google. It saves as you go, every single file. If you just happen to put it in the trash, you could always drag it out of the trash and bring it out again. So you kind of get rid of that nervousness of what if I do something wrong, or that Microsoft mind frame that we used to have saying, okay, let's make a copy of this, because you could always go back and revision history. So it's a little bit of a different mind frame than what we're used to. All right, so now I'm gonna kind of go through some other stuff here. This is support. The support is really good. If you click on there and you look for help, you can get plenty of help in here. This little wheel is called a settings cog. You'll probably see it in most of the G Suite applications. They have different abilities, so I'm going to kind of click in there right now. It's going a little slower. So I have settings. I have Get Drive for desktop, and that's where that Drive file stream that I talked about, and I'll go to that in a little while, and different keyboard shortcuts that you might want to know about. So when I go into settings, it tells me about what storage I used. I have the ability to convert files like Microsoft and things like that into the Google Doc editor, and it's pretty clean. So you could pretty much take a Microsoft document, and I'll show you an example of this in a minute, upload it into Google Docs, and it's pretty seamless the way it goes in. Sometimes it might have some crazy formatting, it might need a little bit of changing, but that is pretty much what that does. I have it checked on because I just kind of immerse myself into the Google world and keep everything in there. So offline, if you have that checked, gives you the ability to work on Google Apps offline, and when you have Wi-Fi again, or you have the ability, it will sync it back.
Leslie, could
Yes.
I interrupt a minute just to
Sure.
say that this is being recorded?
Yes.
So everybody knows this will be recorded. So, you know, you can go back and you're going to be able to access what Leslie is presenting.
Yes, I'm going to throw a lot of stuff at you, so feel free to, yeah, as soon as I have it recorded, I think we're going to have it uploaded into a YouTube that you guys will all have access to. Density, I know, it's just the look of G Suite. I kind of leave it at cozy. Down here are some suggestions. So make relevant files handy when you need quick access. So when I showed you that quick access that was on the top, I don't have to have that if I don't want. I personally like it, so I have it checked on. So you guys are going to have your own personal preference, what you like and what you don't like. So, you know, that's up to you. Surface important people and files and shared with me. I do different things with shared with me. I have it turned on, but what it'll do is if you have someone that you work closely with and they're, you know, it knows that it shares a lot of documents with you, it'll put it up on the list in the shared with me. I take files that are important to me that are shared with me and I put it into my drive. So I have it checked on, but I don't really need to. Make priority my default homepage. I'm going to talk about the priority page. I didn't go there yet, but I will. But if you don't like it, you could toggle it, or like it, you could toggle it on or off. So when I go to Google Drive, it automatically defaults to my priority page. All right, and again, this is the quick access. I like it because the last few documents that I've opened up, it's already there. I click on it and I open it up. Again, this is my waffle. So this is where I access all my different files. If there's something that's down here and you want, I could just click, drag it, and move it up. So you could kind of move things around based on how you want it. There are different views for the way you see things. So up here, where you see that grid, if I click on here, it kind of changes the look. So these are my folders. But what I like about this, if I go down to, sometimes you forget what the file is. If I go down to where the files are, or if I opened up one of my folders, I can actually get a preview of every single one of my documents. All right, everyone's good? Okay, so I'm going to give a couple of examples now. Let's see. So I have the ability, this is a PDF. So I'm not sure, this has a little bit of a graphic, so we're going to try it out. You always have additional abilities when you right click. So right now I'm going to right click on this form limiter and it's going to give me a bunch of options. So I'm going to have similar options on any single file, no matter what it is, and folders. So I could get a preview of it. We're going to do this. It says open with. I'm going to say take this PDF and open it in a Google Doc. I'm going to do that in a second. I just want to show you this other stuff. If I wanted to now take this file and share it, I would click on share. And I have the ability to write even a person I want to share it with, or I can go into advanced and have different abilities to who this can be shared with. And just an FYI, I just learned this morning, this whole page, the sharing settings is getting changed. I think it's going to look a lot cleaner, but that should be rolling out in a couple weeks. So yours might look different by the time you get to it. So if I click on change, these are my options for sharing. So you need to get comfortable with this and just make sure, like when you first start working with the sharing capabilities, you're just kind of understanding what they all mean. So this is, I'm sharing it on the public, on the web. No, you don't need to have a link. You don't need a sign on. Someone could do a search, they could find that file. This is anyone with a link, even outside of your organization. As long as they have the link, they'll be able to see it. This is within Hauppauge, so yours would be within your domain. And this, anyone with a link within the domain can see it. And this is off. So once I click this on, and let's say I just want to share it with one person, I could type the name of the person. I don't know if it's going to let me find Kelly. So I would start typing. Usually whoever's in your organization would come right up. I could click. I could add more people. But if you look over here on the right, this is a pencil. So what this is doing, it's giving that person the ability to edit the document. So it depends on what you're looking to do with that document. Maybe you all want to collaborate in one document, and we'll learn more about this when we do Google Docs. Or I could give them the ability to just comment. They can't edit the document, but they can comment. And again, when we do Google Docs, I'll talk about commenting, or just the ability to view the document. So that's kind of a very short version of what the sharing settings look like, and we'll kind of look into this more as we go forward. Okay, so now I'm going to take this PDF, I'm going to right click, I'm going to go up to open with, and I'm going to say Google Docs. So now it's taking that PDF and it's opening up, it's bringing it into an editable file. Okay, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. So I think it's not quite finished yet. It's still working. All right, so why it's finishing. If you look up on the top, this is where your star is. So if I wanted to star it, I would just click star. It's going to highlight in yellow. If I don't want it starred, I just take it off. So it looks like it lost the picture. It might have gained some stuff, but usually if you're taking most Microsoft documents, this was a PDF, but now it's completely editable. So it's nice. It very easily takes a PDF and makes it editable. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna get back to my drive.
Leslie, we have a question. What did the star represent?
The star just puts it, if you look over here to the left, see it's starred. It just kind of puts it in an area that you can easily access. But I'm going to give you guys some workarounds. This used to be a great feature. I used to star the things that I used all the time. But now with these workspaces, priority, and the ability to take a file and put it in multiple locations, I don't use it as much anymore. So the thing with Google, there's always 5 different ways at least to do everything, and there's tons of features, and you might not use it all, so you're just going to have to use what you are comfortable with using and your needs. So if you like that ability to just click and star and see all your starred files, that's what you would do. But I'm going to show you some other alternatives to that. Okay. So I want to show you some other stuff here. So now I'm going to get back into my drive. Okay, so again, right-clicking does a lot of things. So if I take a right-click and I right-click on this folder, again, I have more options. I could share this entire folder with somebody. I could just get a shareable link to that folder and send it to somebody via email, or maybe I was working in the classroom and I have a folder and all the students have things in there and I want to share that folder with all my students. I could get a shareable link. I could post it in Google Classroom and they all have that ability to put stuff into that folder. I could move the folder or files to somewhere else. Again, I could start. I could rename it. Coloring, we're going to talk about color coding. I could do a search within it, and I could also get details. So you could get full details on any file or folder. Who has access to it? How many times was it edited? So this is the folder. This is where it's located. It's owned by me. This is when it was modified, open, created. I could give it a description if I'd want. And then I could click and go into activities. And this is all the activities that have went within here. So if I had students who had work, everything is all in here. This would go on for a while because this is where I do a lot of work. So you could get full details about any file or folder inside of here. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go back to my presentation for a second. So we kind of walk through a lot of the different, the environment, how to access different things. So we talked about creating new documents. You could do that from the waffle, or you could do that from the new button on the top left. We kind of walked through most of this stuff over here, change setting. And I will jump in and show you something else now that I'm thinking about it. Okay. So if you look up here on the top right, you see, again, there's 3 to 5 ways to do everything in Google. So right now I have it clicked on. So I clicked off, everything disappeared. So I'm going to just, for the sake of it, I'm going to go down to a folder or file. I could click, notice up here, there's nothing here, but if I click on this file, I have options. Again, I could have right-clicked on it, same way, but same thing. I could get a shareable link. I could share it with particular people. I could preview it. I could throw it in the trash. 3 dots always mean more actions, and these are more things I could do. I could download it to my hard drive. I could make a copy. All right, it's pretty much the same thing as if I stayed over here and I right-clicked. Same exact thing. I'm going between the things here. Okay. So we talked about uploading files and folders. Hopefully you're comfortable with that. And it's a pretty easy process. Again, you can upload a single file, or you could upload entire folders. Okay, so sometimes you have a file and it just makes sense to have it in multiple locations. You don't have to make copies of it. You don't want copies of it in multiple locations, but you just want to be able to access it in multiple locations. So what you could do is click on the file, and then you use the keyboard shortcut called Shift-Z or Command-Z. And what it does, I'm going to pop out here and show this to you. So let's say I have this file and I want to have it in maybe a webinar folder, and then I want to have it in my Hotpog. You know, I want to have it in multiple locations because that's where it makes sense. So I could click on it and I could do Control-Z. Why is it doing that? Maybe I do it in another folder. Click on it and I do, oh, I'm sorry, Shift-Z. Shift-Z, I said the wrong thing. It gives me the option to now add it to a different location. Now it's not making copies of it. So no matter, I could put it in 5 different places. When I open it up, it's just that one file. If I make changes to it, it's making changes in all the different locations. So it's not making a copy of it. It's just giving you the ability to access it in multiple locations. Okay, I'm gonna go back to here. All right, so that is Shift-Z. I apologize. I hope I didn't confuse you with that. Okay, and that just kind of shows what it looks like. Went on there, Shift-Z, and then you put it in where you would want to have it. And it could be in 5 different places if that makes sense for you. So the search in Google Drive is very extensive. So you could go on to the top, and I'm going to show this to you in a second. You could search by file type. You could search by the date it was modified. You could search by the item name. If it just, okay, I know it has these words in it. I have no idea anything else about it. Who the owner is. So maybe it was a document shared by a particular person and that's all you remember about it. So you could search by owner. Search by shared with. So who, you know, maybe you shared a file with a particular person. So, and you could kind of narrow it down. The more information you give it, the more it'll narrow down your search. By location, and then follow up. So let me show you what this looks like. Okay, so this is up here, the search and drive. If I click on this triangle, this is where I could kind of narrow down anything I want. So if I click on type, I could say, well, I know it was a presentation. Click on there. I know the owner was me, so I could say owned by me. Again, if it was owned by someone else, I could give it a specific person, or I know it was shared with me, but I'm not sure who it was owned by. So I'm going to say owned by me, location, so I can narrow that down. If you don't know the answer, just leave it blank, but the more information you give it, the more likelihood you are going to be to find it. The date it was modified, okay, so maybe it was within the last 30 days. Item name, so the item name would be, it was in the title. Maybe it just has the words, so I'm going to say Google Classroom. Shared with, I don't know if I never even have to get this far. So if I do search, it's going to come up with, and of course I have a lot of stuff for Google Classroom, so it came up with a lot, but I already have a thumbnail. I could see everything that falls under those guidelines that I gave it. So there's a pretty robust search. And again, even if it was in the trash, it would find it. So you really can't just lose files anymore. It's stored in the cloud, and you can't, even if it's in the trash, you're not really throwing it out unless you empty the trash. So you pretty have a good ability to find whatever it is you're looking for. Okay, I'm going to jump back into the presentation. Okay, so sharing and collaboration. These are videos, so I'll share this presentation with you guys at the end. I'll throw it in the chat if you want. And this will kind of walk into this a little bit more, but I'm going to cover it a little bit with you, sharing and collaboration. Again, I just got notified that they're updating the look of it, and I think they're just making it easier in a single glance to view who you are sharing these files with and the sharing permissions of those files. This is another video with new Google Drive features, but I'm gonna just show that to you out, but this way you can look at the video on your own time. Then we're gonna talk about different ways to organize your Google Drive, including color coding and just the hierarchy of how it works. And we're not gonna get to file stream yet. Okay, so. I don't know why I have this up here. All right. So let me go to my drive. And I'm going to change. I literally go back and forth between the way I view things depending on what I'm looking for. So let's just kind of talk about organizing. You could put folders inside of folders. So if you look right now, right up here, it shows you the path of where your folders are. So right now I'm in 8th, if I click on 8th grade and I go into that, these are my files in 8th grade. If I look up here now, it says my drive, 8th grade. I could go in even deeper and I could go 8th grade careers. I could see that I have this folder shared. If I wanted to click on it and see who it was shared with, I could click on and say share, and it will show me it's shared with, this is one of my colleagues. But I could go into this folder. Okay, so now if you look, I got my drive, 8th grade careers, and I could see who it was shared with. So you could go through, and you could have folders in folders, whatever makes sense for you. If I was uploading a folder from my hard drive and I knew whatever that folder was should belong in here, you could open up all the different folders that you want. If I hit new and I did a file or a folder upload, it would upload it into here. You could always move things out or move things around after, but just keep that in mind when you're uploading folders. What's your hierarchy? Like, where are you at? Okay, so it starts with actual emojis. So if you wanted to add emoji, which is easy to do on your iPad because you have it built in, but there's things called Emoji Land and Emojipedia and Chrome extensions that you can use if you wanted to just give it a little more visuals. So an emoji would come first as far as the naming convention, then numbers, and then you can alphabetize. I could always view by date modified by clicking up here or by going from, Z back to the numbers backwards. So that kind of is how it works. But let's say I wanted to do things by, let's say, first period, if I had taught different periods, I could right click. Well, actually, that one's not a good example. Let's see, I'm in and I want to take this Edpuzzle and I want to move it up to the top. I could right click on it. I could say rename, and I could give it the number 1 in front. I could also put a symbol on there too and hit OK. It's going to move it right up to the top because number 1 goes before 8. So just so you know how, depending on how you want to organize yourself, and that would be, just useful for you to know. Okay, now we're going to get into priority and workspaces. So this is fairly new. I love this. And again, it's one of those things you either use it and you use it all the time, or I don't even know why I have priority. I just never use it because I go to my drive. So priority is things similar to the quick access. It usually are files or folders that you use all the time. But then there's something below called workspaces. So I kind of like to think of workspaces as my desk, and you have piles on your desk in different areas, and it makes sense for you. So I could create a workspace where I have, let's say, 8th grade careers. I have all my files in here. Okay, so I have a bunch of files. Again, it's in my folder, in my drive, the way I have it. This is just another way to access it that makes sense for me. So distance learning, these are my files for this. And again, it just gives me quick access to, because sometimes there's so many files that you don't need on a regular basis. So to use this, and you're going to hit create, I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to just call it webinars. So when I put in webinars and I hit create, it's going to automatically set up a little workspace for me. It automatically popped this up. I didn't do anything. It took a second because what it's going to look for is files that have webinars in it, just in case this is what I want to add. So I could say, yeah, I want to add this, but I could also choose other files. So over here on the right, I could click on My Drive and I could choose, I could find it, you know, everything is just the way it was in My Drive, and I could start adding different files. I'm just going to grab anything right now, things that are out of there. So I'm going to say, okay, I want this, I want this. You know, I actually just highlighted it and I'm going to insert it. So what it did, it took those files and it put it into my workspace. They're like, well, do you want this? I'm going to say, yeah, we could add that too if you want it. Oh, actually, it opened it up. Okay, so I could add more files, or I could say I'm done. So now it's here and it's just easy access. If I click on the three dots, I could rename it. Maybe I don't want to call it webinars. I want to call it something else. I could hide the workspace or I could just remove it. Again, I'm removing it. All I'm doing is removing access to it from there. I'm not deleting anything. You could also have hidden workspaces. So I believe you can have, for every workspace, you have up to 25 files, different files that you can add to a workspace. I don't know if there's a limit to how many workspaces you have. So I don't know if there's any questions so far. Anyone have any questions?
Lara Lee just asked if you could, at the end, go through what the different symbols are.
Sure. Well, I'm almost done. So I'm going to kind of just leave it at that. I threw a lot of stuff at you guys. I know this is a lot, but as you start kind of going around and playing with this, you know, you just get comfortable with it. The biggest thing that is the learning curve for me anyway, until I got more comfortable, was the sharing and collaboration. And if you're taking Google Docs, which we're doing next week, it kind of shows it more because it kind of shows it more in action. So let me go into My Drive and I will show you the different symbols. And again, you're going to get to know these. The more you use them, the more comfortable you're going to be. So this is Google Docs and the color is always the same for that application. This is Google Slides. Google Docs, Google Slides. These are folders. Again, if there is a person inside, it means it was shared with somebody. I'm going to go down to some of the different things here. Okay, so this is Word. If I opened up this Word doc, it has the ability to keep it in the Word file. You can edit it in Google Docs and keep it as a Word file. That's up to you. Or I could take this file and just bring it right into Google Docs, and it's very clean, more cleaner than when we opened up the PDF into a Google Doc. So you could see this says PDF. I'm just trying to show you some different things. This is a GIF or GIF. We still don't know the real true name, but GIF or GIF. This is a Google form. It's purple with the three dots with the lines. This is an MP4, so this is a video. I'm trying to think of something new. This is green and this is Google Sheets. So I think we're going to be doing Google Forms. So when you create a Google form, it automatically can bring it into a Google Sheet. And so this is the Google Sheet. And let's see, this is Google Drawings. So Google Drawings is another G Suite application. And again, you get to know what they are. We do use Smart Notebook in my district, and all those Smart Notebook files, all of that can be in here as well. Jamboard, if you're familiar with Jamboard, I don't think I have any out here, but Here it is. This is a Jamboard file. So you get to know what they are. And again, I could go into the preview where it shows me my little thumbnails and I could see what everything looks like. This normally works much faster, but because I think we're doing the Zoom and recording, it's a little slower than normal. Okay, so you could kind of get a thumbnail, what everything is and what it looks like. So if anyone wants to jump in, if you want to see me do something again, or if you have a question, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So there's
Oh,
in the chat, what's the difference between using Move To from Shared With Me and Shift Z?
Okay, so shared with me. So let me kind of show you. I didn't show you this because I was going to show you more when we went into Docs. So let's say this was a document I could see it was shared with me in the past week. So let's say I want to keep this in my, I don't want to lose this in the shared with me. I want to put this into my drive. So I have a couple of ways I could do that. And again, it's not giving me ownership over it. It's just giving me an easier way to organize it and access it. So this was a resume. So as it comes up, and I'm getting a little bit into Google Docs and it's still loading right now. Again, here is my star if I wanted to star it. But if there was a file that was shared with me, it's going to show up right up in here. It's taking a second. A little more than a second. Okay. Actually, it was already in there. I didn't pick a good example. I have the ability right now to move it to somewhere else. So let's see if I can find another document that I can share this with. It's got to be a document that was not mine to begin with. So shared with me, I used to want to organize shared with me, but you just got to come to the realization that you're never going to like anything that's shared with you. I'm trying to find a good example. I don't even know what this stuff is. Okay, so I could either, I'm trying to find a good example to show you guys. I don't even know what this is. So let me see, make sure this isn't my file. And again, I could click on it and I can get more information by right-clicking. Really slow. And if I go to view details, okay, you change permissions on an item. I don't know if this was shared. I'm not finding a good example here. Let's see, I'm sorry.
So Leslie, I have a question. If
Yeah.
somebody shares something with me, am I allowed to share that with someone else?
It depends on the permissions that are given to you. So
Okay.
you have, yeah, I'll talk about that. Okay, I'm gonna just, I'm trying to find a one. I just wanted to show you this thing here. Here, okay, so this might be a good example. So I could either be in the document, I'm gonna go with this one here. I'm gonna right click. If you look here, and I could do this from within the file or from right clicking. See that it says add to my drive? So this was in shared with me. So I had a file that was shared with me. I know I'm gonna need to be able to access it or wanna know where it is. I could right click and go add to my drive. If I click on that, it's adding it to my drive. And if I click on organize, I can now put it in my drive in whatever folder I want. Okay, so again, I didn't take ownership of it. All I'm doing is putting it in my drive so I have the ability to organize it where I can find it again.
So is that doing the same thing as Shift Z?
Yeah, so
It
like I said, 5 ways to do everything, but shared with me is a little bit different than Shift Z, because Shift Z, you could take your own file and put it to multiple locations. Shared with me is taking, add to my drive is taking a file that's shared with you and putting it into your drive. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Trying to think of some other, is there anything like, do you want to see more about the sharing features?
I actually have a question about Shift Z. It seems
Okay.
like else there's some intuitive way of finding it. Shift Z is something I'm likely to forget. Is there like an icon or a button you press on for the same thing?
No, and it was one of those things that I just kind of learned about recently. But if you click up on settings and where it says keyboard shortcuts, if you look at all these keyboard shortcuts, so I wish I was better at doing this with the keyboard shortcuts because it would probably make my life a lot easier. But there are keyboard shortcuts for everything. So I could search maybe, let's see, multiple files. Let's see if it comes up. No, of course not. But menus, go to, so it's in here somewhere. It's just called something else. So it's
I think
every,
it's called Add Selected Items to a Folder.
let's see if I say folder, if it comes up. Go up one folder, path, create, Shift F, here we go. Action, add selected items to a folder, Shift Z. So lots of different ways. I mean, the tasks that you do all the time, it would be helpful. I mean, I kind of have my way of doing things and, you know, it's all what you get used to doing. So these are just tons of different keyboard shortcuts. And I access this from settings and keyboard shortcuts. So the one thing I didn't go over with you, and I might be going a little advanced, but I just want you to know that it's available, not that you should learn to do it right now. But we talked about Drive File Stream. So what File Stream allows you to do, so I could go onto the web, right? And I can access my Google Drive by going to drive.google.com. I could go to a blank, Google search page. And then I could click on the waffle and that will bring me to Drive. And you could have Drive open in 4 different places and it doesn't matter. If you make a change, it's automatically syncing amongst all of them. And that's the same thing for any G Suite file. You could have the same file opened in 3 different tabs up here. You make a change, it automatically updates everything. So if you look up on the top of my screen here, this looks like the Drive. If I click on here, this acts as sort of like, it's not a hard drive on my device, but acts like one. So again, it's still web-based, but if I click on here and I click on the folder, it brings me to where it looks like you would find your desktop, your drive, your downloads. And what's nice about this feature is I could be working offline. This drive and my Google Drive are the same thing. They sync simultaneously, but if I was offline or I had no Wi-Fi, this is how I have access to all my files. And as soon as the Wi-Fi comes back on, everything just syncs. The other thing I like about this is sometimes if you want to download something, you would, without FileStream, you'd have to download it to your desktop and then upload it to Google Drive. This gives me the ability, when I go to instead of hitting downloads, this with Google Drive shows up right here. So I have the ability to take a file, maybe it was an attachment on an email, and bring it right here. So that's the basis for files, for what FileStream is. You would never want to do it on a shared desktop computer, but if you had your home personal computer or a laptop, it would be really helpful to have it there.
And Leslie, where was the file stream? What did you click to show that?
Okay, so if you go into the settings right up here and I click here, you're gonna say get Drive for desktop. It's gonna bring you to a web place. Mine is installed, but get started right here. You're gonna download it. There's a little bit of a process, you'll lock in. It's not too difficult and it kind of walks you through it. So you would do it on your device. So if you were on your work computer or on your desktop, you would just click on the settings and get it. There might be different sharing. It depends on how it's set up through your IT department. you know, certain applications are blocked, so you'd have to make sure that it was not blocked. But you can download it on your, you know, your home PC as well. And I would just click download and install and then go through the process.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. I'm actually
There was another question. Can you create a folder in the starred section to organize?
Let's try it. That's a good one. Let's see. If I go to file and folder, let's see if it brought it in. I don't know. I think it's something that you would star a file, but you wouldn't create something in starred. But you could star an entire folder and bring it in starred.
Okay.
But again, I mean, now that you can make, you know, star has been there for a long time, but now that you could do that Shift Z and make copies of everything and put it in, or not copies, make different ways to access it and priority, I almost don't need start anymore, you know? So maybe if you were creating a template that you used the template often, you might want to star the template, but you could also create a folder and call it template. Again, I hate to say there's one way to do it because there's, you know, so many different ways, and it's kind of just what works best for you.
Leslie, this is Larry. A question. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, if you're new to Drive, I mean, I know the old Drive, but the new Drive, what hints could you give? What kind of steps would you advise for somebody who is fairly new to this?
Just jump in and do it. I mean, you know, like I said, people get nervous, especially if you're a little older and the way things used to be, because you're always worried you're going to like lose a file or whatever. You don't have to worry about anything. It's stored in the cloud. Everything automatically syncs. You never save anything. And just to give an example of how things work. So this is a Google Doc. And again, I'm going into Google Docs, but just to kind of make you think that you don't have to worry in Google, because you could always go back in time automatically in Google. So right now, these are all webinars that I've been doing within my district, and this has taken a second to load. But it looks, this is the last time it was edited. I share this document, so this is the person that I shared it with. But if I click on here, this is one more, taking a second. No. So if I click on here, it's bringing me into the document. I could look at every single time this document has been changed, and I can revert it at any time. So look what shows up over here on the right. This is all of us. We will all have edited, and I could say, okay, what happened here? So this is the beauty, and I'm going to kind of go off topic a little bit, but if you were sharing a Google Doc with multiple people or students and you want to see, I could click on here and I could see what was done here and what changes were made at this time. And if you look up here, I could go back and restore this. So it really has like just so many features and capabilities. So if I could give any bit of advice, I would say just dive in and don't worry about it, because you can always, it'll never completely go away. You could always revert back to different versions. You can make multiple copies. Like there's few ways to mess up. But this training center, and I'm going to throw this in here now before I forget, the support button is really in depth. If I go into training, and if you guys are interested in anything G Suite related, they have so much in here by product, by ways to use in the classroom, you know, if you previously used, I mean, everything is in here. So there's just, you know, G Suite checklists for new users. Like there's just so much stuff right here. You could probably find anything you want. Describe your issue. So just type it in and it's really in depth. So I would say just don't be nervous about trying anything and moving things around, because it's very easy to kind of get back. It's never going to totally go away. Might cause you a little bit of frustration until you figure it out, but unfortunately, that's how you figure things out.
It-
There are
it-
tons of videos on.
Yeah.
I went over a lot with you guys, but there's tons of videos on. Just Google, Google Drive basics, and you'll find tons of stuff out there. And
Excuse
the
me,
certification
Leslie,
process is
I-
very good too. I'm sorry.
Leslie, I noticed that G Suite checklist for new users might be a place where people could go who are really new to G Suite.
Yeah.
Because it sort of ticked off what you should start with, I thought I saw.
Yeah. So we could, if you click on there, no, wrong one. You click on the question mark, and you'll see that question mark in many of the G Suite applications. But if I click on here, I went to training. It'll also tell me updates. So you're going to see the sharing kind of change. If you use Google right now, you'll see a change. Any new updates, they are constantly, I'm on an email list, and I would say pretty much every single day, I will get some kind of email with some new feature that is rolling out. Not always everything, but today it was about the sharing and collaboration. Sometimes it's Google Meet. So they added all these new Google Meet features with everyone working remotely. I'll go back in here. So this is training and G Suite checklist for new users, getting ready to switch, day 1. And it walks you through pretty much everything. You could click on it. It's very, simple, easy to follow. If you
Wow.
So lots of good stuff in here. If you want to go more, really, if you wanted to, take the summer and get certified, I've learned more stuff trying to go through the certification process. So I got certified many years ago. Actually, the year I went into Southampton, I got certified, and obviously everything has changed. Not everything, but a lot has changed since then, the whole certification process. But going through the process forces you to learn all these different things, whether it be Gmail or Classroom or whatever. And then I took the test, and it's a pretty intense class, but I learned so much. Like, I got so much out of it. So I'm going to go through the certification 2 process again, and then over the summer I'll go for the certified trainer, which more, because I'm a tech integration specialist, kind of lends itself to that. So I'm going to stop sharing right now, and then I'm happy to still answer any other questions that you have.
Well, I just want to say that do the evaluation form. I think I took, and hold your certificate. I just want to remind you to keep your certificates. So we may be working on bundling up PD so that you could get an in-service credit or something like that. And Kelly, do you and Leslie, you want to explain that PTC is going to establish a YouTube channel, and any webinars or any trainings that we do remotely will be on the YouTube channel, and you just go to our YouTube site. This is recorded, so you can go back to it on the YouTube site, right? Am I right?
Yep.
Yep.
So that's how we're going to build up capacity for not only Southampton teachers, but the teachers throughout the consortium. We're just going to put all the things on the YouTube site.
So what I just added to the chat, if you guys want to take it, that was that Google Doc presentation. And again, within that presentation are videos of some of the things that I covered, but now you can kind of take it on your own time. Some of it was the sharing and collaboration feature. Some of it was adding emojis and color coding and organizing. It actually has some really cool ideas for organizing your Google Drive. And again, it all starts with Google Drive. So if you could start with a nice organized fashion and then start bringing in your files, that's the best place to start.
Leslie, just quickly, how different is using Google Drive on the iPad?
the layout is different. You generally, when you work on the app, it has limited features. There are things, on a good note, is because we are iPads from 4 through 8. There are some hurdles, you know, but there are also certain applications like Google Classroom that gives you the ability to do things on your iPad that you can't do on a desktop or on a Chromebook. So Jamboard is another, it's like a white collaborative board. It's better on the iPad. There's just so, you know, it's different. What is new if you're, I think you're doing iOS 13 or later, a lot of times you have the app and you had to work in the app to work in G Suite, but you can now work in Safari and work in docs.google.com, which is Google Docs, or slides.google.com, and that gives you the full browser version. So in that respect, you might not want to have the app on your iPad. Does that make sense? Because what would happen if you went to a Google Doc, it would open up the app and then you lose some of the features. Where if you just went into Safari and went to docs.google.com, and we'll talk about that if you guys are jumping on to the Google Doc one, then you have the full function, just what you would see on a desktop or a laptop.
Okay, I'm gonna try.
And that's new. To me, I like it better because then I have all my features.
Great.
So was everyone able to get the presentation? Just copy and paste it, you're good? Okay, and I could always share it with Lara Lee, who could share it out as well.
Can everyone just please go to the chat and pull that from the very top, pull the evaluation form off? And I guess it looks like some of you can access it right from here, but otherwise paste it in your browser. It's just to help direct us as to what future trainings and offerings we might want to have.
So hopefully this was, I mean, even if you were pretty familiar with G Suite, hopefully you got some more tips that you might not have known about, and definitely a good place to get started. And again, just don't be afraid. I know a lot of people, I kind of dive in, that's my mentality. I just jump in onto things, but just don't be afraid on here because there's very few things that could just disappear. You know, you might lose it for a minute, but that search feature is really, really useful. And even if it goes in the trash, everything syncs, so it makes it really hard to totally just lose something altogether.
Terrific.
All right, guys, so I'm gonna stop recording. And let's see, I had it automatically recording. Okay, pause.